Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an author, presenter at Sky Sports, and years ago I went to the jungle and got ill. Very ill. So this is my podcast adventure to find more energy. It's packed with biohacking, science, health tech, supplements, and some of the most well-known experts on the planet.
This is something I spent 4 months of my life doing with electrodes glued to my head so that you can do a lifetime worth of meditation.
Decide what you don't give a fuck about, which is something you don't care about.
Some of it gets quite out there.
I had some stem cells sent up to my house that I had stored, and then I injected myself with mannitol.
And we even hack hangovers.
Alcohol is poisonous. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage.
So that's my podcast, Zestology. Live life with energy, vitality, and motivation. And an awesome bonus episode for you today. Hello again for the second time this week. Adele Bridges and Celeste Pereira have a mission, and that is to help people feel amazing in their bodies. And that is why I'm doing a bonus episode for you today with a real Zestology friend of the show, Celeste Pereira. She was the 13th ever guest that I had on Zestology. It's been going for 7 years now. She was episode number 13. She's been on a few times since, and she's now teamed up with another friend of mine, Adele Bridges. And yeah, I mean, with Celeste, you've probably heard her on Zestology before, but now she's teamed up with Adele to create an amazing book. And it's all about bendy superhumans. That is people who are hypermobile. And today's interview contains some serious bendy truth bombs. It's also the reason that this is a midweek bonus episode. This content is so helpful for so many people, but it might not be for everybody. So that's why you've got 2 episodes this week. Do give this a listen and see if you enjoy it. I'm pretty sure you will, as Adele and Celeste are fantastic company. And, you know, I'm just aware that some people aren't that bendy and might not want to listen, which is why it's a bonus episode. But I think you will love this. They're fantastic company, as I say. And if you are too flexible to feel good, you will get double the benefit from this episode. Celeste, Adele, it's really lovely to talk to you. Welcome to Zestology.
Thanks for having us, Tony.
Thank you so much.
I obviously kind of know you separately, and I'm fascinated in hearing how you started to kind of work together on all the projects that you're doing together. Because Celeste, you were one of the first guests on Zestology, really, weren't you?
Oh, you were so kind to me, Tony. Yeah, you always bring me on, and whenever I listen back to the podcast, I'm like, man, I talk fast. And it's like something I've really been trying to work on. And actually recently, Adele started looking into ADHD, and I was like, maybe I should look into that as well.
Really? Adele, have you slowed Celeste down a little bit?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I would want to either. I think Celeste is perfect the way she is. But it is interesting, actually, that the links with ADHD that we've come across with hypermobility, which, sorry to jump in and
yeah, no worries. Yeah,
but this is the topic of our interview, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's a link, is there, between ADHD and hypermobility? Because I know there are other links as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
so many links.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is that, you know, there's actually a huge number of people that have, they say a third of the population has actually got hypermobility, but obviously they go undiagnosed. And, you know, a lot of times I get the question, but how do you know you've got a hypermobility versus just being a bit flexible? And it's really these comorbidities that kind of make it a little package. So you've got, you know, some very loose, lax joints, which is also a spectrum. But then you also have these additional things like anxiety, fatigue, gut issues. And more recently, Adele and I have been looking into the links between ADHD as well.
Wow. Yeah. And just on ADHD, I now think that I've got some sort of ADHD, or at least I definitely had it when I was at school. I was looking back over some of my old school reports, and one of my reports said, I think it was a science report, and the teacher wrote this on a report. He said, Tony is quite literally bone idle. He said that in my report, but I don't think I am bone idle. I think I just probably wasn't very good at focusing.
Yeah.
What does that even mean, bone idle?
Bone idle. Well, that's
Yeah.
what we might need to translate that for our American viewers. But yeah, I mean, it just basically means I'm
Yes, please.
extremely lazy, which I don't feel like I know that I'm not lazy in my adult life, but I obviously wasn't very good at focusing. But so let's back up then, because Celeste, obviously we've known each other for a long time, and then Adele, we met at a festival, and you'd kind of come to England, and you'd built this really successful Instagram profile, and you were helping a lot of people online. And then the next thing I know, you guys are working together. So what happened?
I had discovered that I was hypermobile, and I had been practicing in my own yoga practice in a way that was quite different to the way yoga is traditionally taught. And I thought, okay, this is making me strong and flexible, because I was naturally very flexible. That's one of the things that is most visible with hypermobility, is that flexibility, the bendiness. But I was like, okay, but I'm practicing in a way that's making me strong too, and I want to share this with others. But I knew that I had a limited amount of anatomy knowledge, biomechanics knowledge, and so first person that popped into my head was Celeste, because I knew with her background as a physiotherapist and her yoga teaching experience, I thought she's the perfect person to ask about this. So I think I sent you a text message or something, Celeste, saying, okay, I'm thinking about doing an online course for yoga with hypermobility, or yoga for people who are naturally flexible, or something like this. And I was thinking about just getting some tips from Celeste, but her response was, I've been thinking about doing the same thing. Why don't we do it together? And so that's basically how it was born.
Great. And I know from following you guys online, it's really fun and approachable the way that you present it. And I know also that a lot of people might not think this applies to them, but actually it does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I think the big thing is that so many people go undiagnosed with this. And, I think a lot of times they have all these comorbidities like the anxiety, the fatigue, the gut issues, and they do try and get help. They really go to different doctors and professionals, and they try different diets. And in the end, they often get misdiagnosed, and I know for me, I had loads of different things that doctors labeled me with. And it was so interesting then when I actually started digging deeper into the research, when I realized it all just comes under this umbrella that when you have hypermobility, you actually have a disruption in the organization of your collagen. So down in the level of your tissues, it looks slightly different to someone who hasn't got hypermobility. But another amazing thing that we're now looking into, because Adele and I are both on a neuroscience course, is that actually the neural structure of people's brains that have hypermobility also have got some key distinct differences.
Right. And in terms of, Adele, what hypermobility actually is, obviously I've taken quite a few of your yoga classes, Celeste, and I know that you're a lot more flexible than I am. I am not very mobility. But what is hypermobility, and how do people actually diagnose themselves? Can you diagnose yourself?
Yeah, it's, well, as Celeste has mentioned, it is a spectrum disorder. And so that's worth keeping in mind, first of all, is that you can sit anywhere on the spectrum of being just slightly hypermobile or very hypermobile. But what does that mean? It means that the collagen, which is the most abundant protein that makes up all of the soft tissues in our bodies. So of course your muscles and your tendons and your ligaments, but also the lining of your gut, the lining of your arteries, all of these various tissues that make up our physical bodies. It's structured differently, and it means that it's extra stretchy, but it also lacks the same recoil as somebody who is not hypermobile. So it doesn't bounce back in the same way as well. And so without being formally diagnosed, hypermobile people might notice that there's something different about themselves, that they tend to obviously be very flexible because we have these extra stretchy muscles and tendons that mean that it's easy for us to go into a split, for example. But also maybe it's harder for us to jump high or run fast. We don't have that same bounciness, that same explosive power that a lot of other people have. And also there's all sorts of other things, like we are typically a little bit clumsier, so you might be more likely to just bump into something because we lack proprioception. The simplest way, though, to check if you're hypermobile yourself, and listeners can do this right now, and it's not the most conclusive thing ever, but it's kind of the best that we've got. It's called the Baton scale, and there's 9 points on the Baton scale. So for 1 point, it's a matter of if you can bend your pinky finger backwards beyond 90 degrees. And so you get 1 point for each pinky finger, left hand, right hand.
Okay.
Then
Right.
the next one is
I can't do that.
bringing your... There you go. Okay,
It's about 90, but it's
no
not
points
beyond
for
90.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a hypermobile person will be sitting there going like, that is well beyond 90. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe even their pinky is touching the back of their hand.
Oh, wow.
The next one is going in the opposite direction. So instead of going in like backwards with the wrist, you're bringing your wrist into flexion and bringing the thumb to the forearm. And if you can make those touch, then that's 1 point for the left side, 1 point for the right side.
If I really push it, am I allowed to push it or not? Kind of force the thumb
Well,
there.
again, it's
I
a
can't do
spectrum.
that.
It's a spectrum. So, maybe you're maybe depending on how hard you have to push it to get there, that kind of tells you where you sit on the spectrum.
I couldn't quite get
But
it there
then
anyway.
hyperextending elbows and hyperextending knees, so elbows and knees that go beyond 180 degrees, those are 4 more points. 1 point for each elbow, 1 point for each knee. And then the ninth point is being able to put your hands flat on the floor with your knees still straight. So bending over into a forward fold without bending the knees, put the hands flat. And so a lot of hypermobile people will find that all of these things are really easy, and they say, wait, is this not something that other people struggle with? I thought this was normal.
Yeah.
But what you'll see is that it doesn't even mean that it doesn't even take having all 9 points to be hypermobile. And the jury's kind of out as well on how many points a person needs to be considered hypermobile. And that is because, again, it is the spectrum disorder. So some people will say 4 to 5 points means you're hypermobile, but some people say even if you've got 1, then you're hypermobile. And like I said, it's not a perfect evaluation anyway, because lifestyle factors will play a part in this. If you have for your entire life been not a very active person, then it may be that you lost a lot of the mobility around your joints, but you definitely still have that collagen structure, and you are still dealing with things like the gut issues, the anxiety, maybe your ADHD, all of these things. So it's not perfect, but it's a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I definitely got a naught on that test. And the final one, I mean, I really, I don't think I can actually touch the floor when I bend over. And I work so hard on it as well, but I think I need to come to your classes again and start doing that. Okay, well, that's really interesting. And I love a quiz that people can take part in while they're listening to a podcast, which is excellent. And so you guys kind of bonded over hypermobility, which is a sentence that has not been mentioned that many times in the history of the world. But then you went and got a book deal as well.
Oh, Tony, it's been so amazing because the community that is formed around this has been mind-blowing. And it really it blew us away in many ways, because we opened up our little Instagram account and we had really no expectations, and it properly just started to boom. And what was so nice is we set up a little private Facebook group so people could support each other. And initially it was quite a lot of additional work to kind of manage all the comments coming through and all the questions. But it's at the point now where there's actually people supporting each other in that group. There are physios in there. There are people with hypermobility, people with experience, people that have done courses and all sorts of different things. And they're all in there helping each other. And it's been so beautiful to watch that transition. And of course, we've also released our online course. But in the midst of all of that, people reached out to us, that publishers reached out to us, and we ended up writing this amazing book with loads of additional information that we are only discovering now, and particularly about the brain and how the brain is related, different hacks even that you can use to tap into the brain of a hypermobile person to help enhance their performance.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a topic that, a bit like histamine intolerance, people are so passionate and so engaged simply because they really want answers. There's not that much good information out there, and they're very motivated to kind of improve.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially when, I mean, for me, one of the things that I faced for years were I had all of these gut issues, but I was doing everything that I knew I was supposed to be doing, or what, I had a healthy diet. I was exercising. I wasn't drinking loads of alcohol. I didn't smoke, all of these things. I was like, I'm a healthy person, but I've got gut issues. I went to various doctors in various countries and had blood tests and stool tests, and they all just came back like, yeah, everything is normal. So why are you here? Oh. And then whenever, and so I think that's it. And but it's like, it doesn't matter if a doctor or several doctors tell you, you're fine, go away. Yeah. or just, if things continue to get worse, you can come back and see me, all those same things. It doesn't matter if you hear that from somebody else's mouth. The fact is, in your body that something's wrong. And so you're going to want to keep searching for those answers. And so that was me. And I think that's why the histamine thing, the hypermobility thing, there's, I'm part of a Facebook group around people who have this phenotype that predisposes them to different types of these illnesses that often get kind of shoved away as like, oh, it's all in your head. And so actually these people, and well, specifically the hypermobile community for us, they've actually become the theme of how we wrote our book, because as it emerged, we realized that these people are superheroes in a way. They're superhuman, because like with hypermobile people, we're very extra sensitive to a lot of the things about the modern life that can have a negative impact on our health. And so whereas somebody else can kind of get away with certain things, hypermobile people tend to be a lot more susceptible and also aware of the negative impacts of, the long list of things from our modern life that can have a negative impact. And so we're kind of like the canary in the coal mine, and we're the ones that are really actively searching for answers to find solutions to these health issues. But these are the same answers that are going to be helpful for so many other people.
Yeah, that's really funny. The canary in the coal mine stuff. There are quite a lot of similarities between that and histamine intolerance, actually. For example, with histamine intolerance, one of the things that you get is like a massively heightened sense of smell. And we went out of our way to get a beautiful lunch on the go the other day, last Sunday. Went down the road to the special shop to get the meat we wanted to cook. And I walked into the kitchen. I said, "Do you know what? I don't want to put a dampener on our lunch, but doesn't smell good." and Faith had to get a lot closer than me to notice the same thing. I was right, but I smelt it from half the way up the stairs, so that's why I'm a canary in the coal mine as well. And then, sorry.
Often, sorry, I just wanted to mention that often, like the whole canary in the coal mine, it's such a beautiful analogy, because all of the struggles that actually hypermobile people face now are probably struggles that people are still going to face, but much further down the line. They are going to have those gut issues. They're probably going to suffer from fatigue. And they normally only hits them in their 60s, when they're meant to be retired and putting their feet up and enjoying life. But unfortunately, their lifestyle has kind of predisposed them to having these things. So yes, like Adele said, there's so many things we can do now to actually make changes. And so many of the tips that we give are really applicable to everyone.
Yeah. And you're right, but actually, although you're finding out this stuff a lot earlier, in some ways, it might not seem like it at the moment, but it's an absolute gift, because you get to clean up your lifestyle, clean up your diet, deal with these things now. And then hopefully when you're 60, 70 and 80, you are living an extremely healthy, active, fulfilling life. And Celeste, you just mentioned with the gut issues. So hypermobility can lead to gut issues. Is that right?
So basically, it's just as we've been explaining. You obviously have collagen, the most abundant protein in all of the tissues of your body, including your gut. Now, if you imagine someone being double jointed and being really flexible, they can hit that split without much work or effort, their gut probably doesn't have the same tension in it. And so the body really struggles to form adequate stool, to absorb nutrients. Leaky gut syndrome is highly correlated to hypermobility. And of course, it's just it's just a lot harder work for the body to do something simple. Like, I always would laugh at my friends who had their morning poo in the morning, and they get up and the first thing they do is they go for their poo. And I just marveled at these people. I'm like, wow. I mean, my guts are just not on any kind of time frame. In fact, I would be pushing my trolley in the supermarket and suddenly be met with huge anxiety because I'm like, I need to find a bathroom now.
Oh, dear.
And it wasn't a very pleasant way to live my life. But thankfully now things are a lot better.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad. Yeah. And that obviously shows what an important service you are providing to people. So we've got a few minutes left. I want to ask what you can do about it, and then some slightly more general questions. Obviously, Celeste, I've asked you before about the book you would recommend and the tip you would recommend for more energy, but I haven't asked you, Adele, so I'll ask you both that at the end. But firstly, what can we do about hypermobile? Let's say people are listening to this, they've maybe resonated with some of the other symptoms, and they've done the test that Adele went through, and they've scored a few on that scale. What can we do about it?
Sure. So probably one of the best things that hypermobile people can do is strength training. And it's just massive to build the muscle, build the strength around the joints. And of course, this protects the joints. If you've got the muscular strength to hold your joints in place so that the ligaments aren't being overstretched and you're not hyperextending in your joints. But this also has a knock-on effect to the rest of the body. For example, if you lack the strength in your legs, for example, and your knees hyperextend, your knees are not meant to hyperextend. It's bad for them. And so not only is this bad for the knees, but your brain is going to get this signal that something threatening is happening in your knees, and it's going to want to try and stop you. And that's one of the reasons that hypermobile people might deal with something like fatigue, because your brain has these different methods in place to stop you from doing something that it is registering as unsafe. And so giving you high levels of fatigue to the point that you don't feel like getting up out of bed is one way to stop you from hyperextending your knees, for example. Strength training can also help improve our proprioception. So proprioception is something that hypermobile people really struggle with. So that's just like kind of being aware of your body in space, where it is in space. This is why we tend to bump into furniture and that kind of thing. We tend to be quite clumsy. But again, that strength training can help boost the proprioception by helping to kind of upregulate the connection between the brain and the various areas of the body.
Right.
Well, I don't want to take all of the time up. Celeste, why don't you jump in with some of the other tips, because there's so many.
Come on, Celeste,
one of the
jump
things,
in.
Here I come. So one of the things that we see happen quite frequently with the hypermobile community is they realize they've got this additional joint range. And to be honest, they probably struggled at sports at school, and they really do. They do seek out that praise that you probably would get, if you did make the hockey team or get a first in the athletics training. And so what they tend to gravitate towards are dance, gymnastics, yoga, because they're able to be really flexible and then they get a lot of praise for that. But there's an additional layer to that. Very often, hypermobile people, because of certain interesting structures in the brain, particularly in the parietal lobe, there's almost like a lack of wiring for object manipulation. So, Adele always jokes that if she's going to go into the ocean, she's leaving the surfboard on the beach. And I always joke that when someone try and partner dance with me, I push them away and I want to freestyle, because having something to manipulate is very difficult for us because of that wiring in the brain. However, it can be really good for us. So if we are going to work out, actually to have those free weights or those stretchy bands is fantastic, not only for our body to develop, but also for these kind of dysregulated parts of the brain.
Wow, it's a really interesting world, and I think the strength training, I'm finding that hard at the moment without the gym. I love the gym being open, and obviously while we're recording this, they're still closed in the UK, but hopefully by the time people listen to this, they'll be open again, so that'll be good. And I know there's stuff you can do with bands and everything else, but it's just not. I like the feeling of some heavy weights. I love that sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
So needed, man.
Yeah. So tell me about the book then. When is it? What is it called? And when is it coming out?
It's called Too Flexible to Feel Good. And it's out in August. And it is a lot of anatomy, biomechanics, these things that can be somewhat dry. So that's why we've written it in our superhero and supervillains comic book style, so that it'll be fun for people to read as well.
Great. I mean, I'm really excited for you. And obviously when it comes out, I will do everything to push it with people who listen to Zestology and put it on the various newsletters and stuff like that. It's just, as you know, my book's coming out the next couple of weeks. In fact, it might even be out by the time we put this out. And it's just, it's quite an intense process, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so much appreciated, Tony. Thank you.
No, absolutely. I mean, I really like. I only wish we could be recording this podcast in person, which hopefully we will be able to do so in the next. And what's it like writing a book together? Because it's such a personal process for me, and I suppose being a bit of a control freak, I quite like having 100% influence on what word goes on what page.
I mean, I really enjoyed the process of writing with Adele, because probably I maybe am a little bit sometimes insecure about my academic potential, probably because growing up in school, I really struggled with school. Right. And so having someone that I know always excels in everything she does has been so amazing, because I just felt like, and also Adele's just so great to work with, because I give her something to do and she absolutely does it 110% better than anyone else ever could. So I felt so amazing working with someone who was so brilliant. And we're just really good at getting on with whatever we need to get on with. So, you have 50% of the job, I have 50% of the job, and we go away, do our best.
Great.
And so it was just a really fun, cool process. We went to Bali and had a little holiday together.
I know, that's the thing, isn't it? You guys have become really good friends as well, which is so brilliant. And what a lovely circumstance.
Lucky because we tend to we really match each other well, because all of the things that I suck at are the things that Celeste is really good at, and vice versa. So it was very easy with writing the book. It was like, why don't you take these subjects and I'll take these subjects, and everybody was happy. So
fantastic. Oh, brilliant. Well, listen, before we go, I want to ask both of you one book you would recommend, and it can be on the topic or any other topic. And Celeste has definitely recommended me some good ones in the past. I've taken action on quite a few of your recommendations, Celeste. And then one tip for living with more energy. So Celeste, what have you got first?
Right. Okay. I'm on this book at the moment. I haven't quite finished it yet, but I think it's pretty life-changing. And Tony, I think it's even someone you'd love to interview.
Oh, yeah.
The man's name is James Nestor.
I have interviewed him.
Oh my gosh.
It's great.
Tony,
isn't it?
He's so brilliant.
Yeah.
What a man. And so he wrote the book Breath, and I just think everybody should read this book. I think it's absolutely amazing.
Yes, we have a copy of that here. It's a very good book, isn't it? And I'm really into it as well. So that's a brilliant recommendation.
Yay! Oh, I'm so did you read it yet?
Yes, I have. I'm like you. I'm kind of midway through it. It's one of the ones that I pick up. We've got it. Most books I read on Kindle now, but I have that lying around the house, and I pick it up when I've got a kind of quiet moment and I want to just read a bit.
Nice. Yeah. And it really has changed my life since I started reading it. I've been doing all his tips. I've been really into it. So I have to give the man a lot of credit because I think he's done a fantastic job with it.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll knuckle down and finish it off, Celeste, because I do respect your book recommendations.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. And then what's the tip? What's the tip for living with more energy?
Well, do you know what? It's a funny one. I was mentioning earlier, Adele and I are both on a neuroscience course, and actually it has been another very life-changing process. And one of the things that we've added into our daily routines are visual and vestibular drills. And I know that sounds really dramatic, but if you think about how we live our lives, especially our eyes, they tend to be just fixed at a single point for many hours, our heads still on our shoulders. But this isn't how we evolved. Our eyes would be looking at bugs flying around and birds, and we'd be tracking animals. And particularly our body position would be morphed into many different shapes throughout the day. And so adding in these drills have been totally life-changing. Now, you might be listening going, well, I don't know how to do that. Yeah. They're free on YouTube. If you Google Z Health, Z the letter and Health, or Z Health if you're in the UK, that YouTube channel has loads and loads of different drills on how to incorporate visual and vestibular drills into your daily routine. They're really quick and easy to do. And you'll be surprised how they light up your brain and give you so much energy.
Oh, it's wicked. Great. Okay, well, I will definitely check that out. And I like the idea of being a little bit more primal in movement. So that sounds great. What about you, Adele? What are your recommendations? A book recommendation and a tip for living with more vitality?
Sure. Okay. I have so many books I could recommend, but the one that popped into my head first was one called Beautiful Practice, and it's written by Frank Forenzich. Okay. I don't even know if I've said his surname right, but yeah, Beautiful Practice, a whole life approach to health, performance, and the human predicament is the full title. And it really is just that. It's a whole life approach to everything. And I think that, yeah, you would like it because it really goes into that kind of primal approach to
great.
Modern life and just approaching everything as a practice, as an experiment, as a way to just make one tiny little step towards being a little bit better, and better could just be more aware, even if it is something that, is a mistake or whatever. So it's a beautiful book. And a tip for greater energy for me, it's prioritizing sleep. And yeah, I just underline prioritizing, because I think that the issue that a lot of people have is we know that we need good sleep to feel our best and to perform our best, but a lot of people don't actually take the steps to prioritize it. They'll always prioritize something else, and sleep is just something that's supposed to happen, and we're supposed to just fall asleep and wake up feeling refreshed. But of course, sometimes we do need to actually take some actual steps to change our behavior in order to allow our bodies and our brains to properly rest. So we do wake up feeling refreshed.
Yeah.
So that would be my tip.
Definitely. It's like the master hack. You can take all the supplements in the world, but if you've had an hour less sleep in the night, it's just not going to work, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, look, it is lovely to talk to you. Remind me again of the name of it, of the book, so people can, because they can pre-order it now, can't they?
Yeah, it's Too Flexible to Feel Good. It's available for pre-order now. If you guys head to our website, Hypermobile Yogis, there is a tab called book, and there's all the different links available for pre-order now. And guys, if you did pre-order the book, it really helps the authors more than you'll know. And you'll also get it at the cheapest price. So really worth doing it.
Great. Good luck.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
You have to give us all your tips on how to be better at book stuff.
Well, yes. I mean, yes, certain level. I mean, the obviously the histamine intolerance books are going really well. By the time this goes out, my book will be out. We'll see how well that goes. But yeah,
you're going to smash it, Tony. You smash thanks. Everything.
Oh, Celeste, you too. Look, it's really lovely to talk to you both, and we will speak again soon. Maybe when the book comes out.
Thanks so much. That would be awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony.
And we hope that your listeners enjoyed this as well.
Oh, definitely. Thank you to Celeste and Adele, and thank you for listening as well. Quick reminder that, remember, for the whole Bioptimizers range, there is a Zestology 10 discount code going on at the moment. Cognibiotics is actually the podcast partner for this month, but I've discovered at the moment that discount code Zestology 10 actually works for all the Bioptimizers products. I don't know how long that'll be, but it's good for now. I've used it for my magnesium breakthrough just recently. So that's if you're in the UK, bioptimizers.co.uk. And if you're in the US, bioptimizers.com. Use that code Zestology10 and that will help you. As I say, so brilliant to speak to Adele and Celeste, and I'm really excited about all their projects and everything they're doing. They're just lovely people, putting good work into the world. And I know that I'm going to be speaking to them again at some point soon. I think Adele has a very special project out quite soon, which we're going to be supporting on Zestology as well. So thank you to them for coming on. Thank you for listening. See you next week.